He is, I think, the most divisive president we've ever had in the Oval Office.
This is nothing short of treasonous because it is a betrayal of the nation.
I think he's afraid of the president of Russia.
Why?
Well, I think one can speculate as to why. That the Russians may have something on him personally that they could always roll out and make his life more difficult. Mr. Trump continues to have his ignorance of the facts or willful disregard of them. Again, just to follow through on these campaign promises that really were very flawed. I and so many other former national security officials are speaking out because of the abnormal and aberrant behavior of Mr. Trump.
He is mean-spirited. He is dishonest. He has shown a lack of integrity. And he has continued to, I think, demean the office of the presidency.
President Trump has revoked former CIA Chief John Brennan's security clearance, and the media is in complete freak-out mode.
Do you know who commissioned the Steele dossier?
I don't.
Did the CIA rely on it?
No.
Why not?
Because we didn't. It wasn't part of the corpus of intelligence information that we had. It was not in any way used as a basis for the intelligence community assessment that was done.
Ooh, busted liar.
As the Wall Street Journal's Kimberly Strassel noted last week, Brennan has been bragging that it was he who started the ball rolling on this entire Russian collusion narrative.
I encountered and am aware of information and intelligence that revealed contacts and interactions between Russian officials and U.S. persons involved in the Trump campaign that I was concerned about. I know that there was a sufficient basis of information and intelligence that required further investigation by the Bureau to determine whether or not U.S. persons were actively conspiring, colluding with Russian officials.
He knows about the dossier. He denies knowledge of the dossier. He briefs the Gang of Eight up in the Hill about the dossier, which they then use to demand the FBI start an investigation into Trump. It is that simple.
We have lots of questions for John Brennan, and he will definitely be sought by the committees for an interview. This is an extremely disturbing thing to see both he and James Comey, supposedly impartial government officials carrying out their jobs in very important areas in intelligence gathering and law enforcement, express the kind of extreme bias that they've shown now, which I think reflects quite accurately on what they were doing back in 2016.
Well, the idea that we should continue to allow John Brennan and other deep state partisans to use their security clearances to validate their political attacks is sheer madness. To do so is to allow them to further disgrace the agencies they've already tarnished through their biased actions.
What possible benefit to American national security would be served by letting John Brennan keep his security clearance?
The only theoretical benefit, Tucker, and I'm just playing the devil's advocate, is if his successor wanted to discuss a fact pattern with him.
There are only two reasons after you retire from government service at his level that you should maintain a security clearance. Number one, you are actively involved in current government projects as a contractor. John Brennan isn't. Secondly, your advice is requested by your successors so that the new CIA director can listen to you.
John Brennan, who, by the way, said President Trump was guilty of a crime for which he could be hanged, said he should be in the dustbin of history. I cannot imagine Mike Pompeo or Gina Haspel ever having any reason to talk to John Brennan.
No one would consult John Brennan in a crisis.
The president can decide who does and does not have security clearances.
Right. Well, I think Brennan's a very bad guy, and if you look at it, a lot of things happened under his watch. I think he's a very bad person.
This administration does not want John Brennan's advice.
I've decided to revoke the security clearance of John Brennan, former director of the Central Intelligence Agency.
I do believe that Mr. Trump decided to take this action, as he's done with others, to try to intimidate and suppress any criticism of him or his administration.
Any benefits that senior officials might glean from consultations with Mr. Brennan are now outweighed by the risks posed by his erratic conduct and behavior.
We begin tonight with a chilling action taken by the President of the United States that looks something like something you might see out of a dictatorship or authoritarian regime.
Trump is under fire for Nixonian enemies list tactics.
It's political. I mean, it's entirely political. It's punishing your critics.
They're just attempting to now, gaslight and distract from something else.
I think it's very, very dangerous undermining of the intelligence community and almost the creation of an enemies list.
This is not a small thing to have a president suggesting retribution for political criticism in this way.
It reminds me, David Ignatius, of what happened with Erdogan after he took control in Turkey. Who did he go after first? He went after the generals.
This is nothing short of extraordinary, and we should all be scared.
He knows the Russian collusion angle, and that's what Trump is trying to silence.
This is without precedent in modern American history. I mean, security clearances have never been used to punish people for speaking out.
The president sent his White House press secretary out there today to basically poop on the people from the press secretary podium. They're snatching John Brennan's national security clearance.
Nixonian type practices of trying to silence anyone who's willing to criticize this president.
The larger implication here is the jeopardy to our First Amendment.
Hear that? The First Amendment. Because you really don't have freedom of speech unless you also have a top secret government security clearance. Brennan, of course, agreed with that. He wrote a piece claiming that Trump revoked his clearance, quote, to try to silence anyone who would dare challenge him. Where was Brennan's essay about being silenced published? Well, in the New York Times, a newspaper with 3 million subscribers. And that, ladies and gentlemen, is what it looks like to be muzzled.
What we're seeing today is this is what dictators do. This is a dictatorial exercise of power that should frighten.
It's a clear abuse of power, and it's a mark of an authoritarian dictator.
This is a striking move towards authoritarianism. This is what dictators do. They shut down the press, they shut down dissent, they jail their opponents.
So he's a dictator. Let that settle in for a minute. If Trump is a dictator, he may be the single most incompetent dictator in world history. For example, he lets all these morons go on cable television and accuse him of crimes, but doesn't do anything about it. They keep talking. Somebody had better alert the secret police. But wait, the secret police are busy right now. They're watching MSNBC and nodding along in agreement.
I think most Americans look at our national intelligence experts as being above politics. Mr. Brennan has demonstrated that that's not the case. He's been totally political. I think I called him a butthead, and I meant it.
He is the one man largely responsible for the destruction of Americans' faith in the intelligence community and in some people at the top of the FBI.
He's somebody who it was proved, lied to Congress. He perjured himself. He is somebody who was involved in weaponizing the intelligence services.
The one thing about Brennan, even if you think that it was wrong to revoke his security clearances, he has crossed a line that no other of those officials have in terms of being nakedly partisan in going after President Trump. He has accused him of high crimes and misdemeanors. He's accused him of treason.
This is a man who has done something no other former CIA director has ever done. Nobody has attacked a sitting president the way John Brennan does, in a way that undermines the integrity of the current government. He's actually feeding in to Russian propaganda.
Of course, John Brennan should have his security clearances stripped. Perhaps it's wrong to single him out, given the large number of Obama administration officials who've been done the exact same thing.
He leaked information that came out in the media that we had a double agent in Yemen. Remember when we were going after the underwear bomber? There still is a bomb maker in Yemen. He leaked that to the media, to people, Richard Clark, who had a security clearance, and then he went on television saying, oh, not to worry, we have a double agent in Yemen. The double agent was still there, and he put that agent's life at risk. John Brennan should have been fired for that alone.
John Brennan has actually admitted and this is the shocking thing, that at the height of the Cold War in 1976, he voted for Gus Hall, the Communist Party candidate for American president. That's when the Soviet Union was trying to destroy America. This man has a track record which clearly is unpatriotic and un-American.
Apparently the fact that Brennan voted for a Stalinist who was funded by the Soviets, the Communist Party USA, was very attractive to Barack Obama, who made him CIA director.
He never should have been let in with that track record. He wanted to be an operator. He wanted to be a case officer. He failed abysmally, became an analyst. And so when Obama made him the director of the CIA, he took his revenge and he tried to make analysts run operations. It was a disaster.
Facts are not Republican or Democrat. Neither should our justice system be or our intelligence community.
I've been calling for a review of the security clearances of a lot of folks, you know, Peter Strzok and others, for months and months and months.
Who else is the president looking at? Comey. Comey was a leaker, and he absconded with government documents when he left. His security clearance should be pulled. McCabe is under criminal investigation, the number 2 from the FBI. Never before in history, media, his security clearance should be pulled. Peter Strzok was just fired, the guy in charge of counterintelligence investigations for misconduct. His security should be pulled. James Clapper committed perjury. He lied to the American people and Senator Wyden and that committee long time ago. His security clearance should have been pulled. Bruce Orr, another one, pulled. Yates, another one. Not because the president has a problem with Democrats or liberals. He has a problem with these people. And we haven't even gotten to the unmasking issue yet. So this is not a First Amendment issue. Meanwhile, when these people had security clearances, what the hell did they do with them? Well, let's take a look. The Russians interfered in our election, right? Well, who was president? Who was head of the CIA? Who was national security advisor? Who was the head of the FBI? All these people, with their security clearances, in positions of power, did nothing effective to stop the Russians from interfering in our election. They did nothing to stop China from stealing our technology. They did nothing to stop North Korea's nuclear program. And even worse, they awarded the the terrorist regime in Tehran with $150 billion, right? With $150 billion, and provided them with a pathway to nuclear weapons. Good job, boys and girls in the Obama administration, with your security clearances.
As of today, I understand that a referral for criminal prosecution has been made by Mr. Horowitz to Mr. Huber, who is investigating the FISA leaks, the unmasking, the leaks of the unmasking, and everything we described tonight. Criminal referrals have already been made, and I suggest that Mr. Brennan, who loves to make comment about the process, get himself a good lawyer, not a good writer.
Wait, John Brennan, the NBC News paid consultant?
Yes, NBC News' consultant, the former director of the Central Intelligence Agency, the most partisan hack leader of the CIA in history, needs a very, very good lawyer.